From United Nations headquarters in New York, this is World Chronicle, an unedited interview program about major global issues. Here now to introduce our guest is the host of today's World Chronicle.
I'm Michael Littlejohns, and this is World Chronicle. How best can we improve the services of public administrators and civil servants in developing countries? How can we tackle corruption and increase efficiency in public administration worldwide? UNPAN, the United Nations online network of regional institutions for capacity building in public administration and finance, is a virtual network that supports the development of efficient and effective public administrations, systems, and competent civil services, especially in developing countries and countries with economies in transition. Our guest today is an expert on the subject of the work of civil servants. He is Guido Bertucci, Director of the Division for Public Economics and Public Administration at the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs.
Now, mind you, UNPAN is doing this in a very unique way, putting this information on the internet. Now, at the end of the day, isn't it something where governments around the world already have the information, or must they come to you, or really what are you offering that they don't already know about?
Well, we have certain governments we are, I would say, in the avant-garde, ahead in this process, namely of computerizing their information, in utilizing primarily the internet as a vehicle to conduct government business. Some other governments are developing at the developing stage in this process. So our goal is to bring those advanced experiences to the attention of those governments which are developing those systems, so that they don't have to incur necessarily major development costs, and so they have almost like a ready product. To give you an example, the government of Mexico has introduced a online system for tendering, for purchasing, which is called Compranet. So the Compranet is a very transparent way of conducting business in terms of public procurement. So we have made this information available to other governments, so these governments can then directly contact the Mexican government and obtain the information on how to introduce this particular system.
So, Mr. Bertucci, you're saying you're really the go-between then. You're posting the Mexican government's information on your website. Others access that.
Correct.
And then what about questions? If somebody asks a question about it, your staff takes care of that answer, or the Mexican government?
We have both options, because we have a feature in this network which is called Advisory Services Online, where public officials or interested party can ask questions of our own staff, and our own staff is available to reply. If the question requires then the direct response on the part of those entities which have designed the product, then we will refer to the original developer of the system.
So it's interactive.
It is interactive. One other area which we hope we embark in is the area of ethics, because we have developed, for example, and it is now online, modules, training modules for concerning ethical behavior of public servant. For example, with case studies of a custom official who is put in a difficult situation to get a bribe, etc.
Mr. Bertucci, viewing UNPAN's mandate, doesn't this in a way parallel many of the famous UN conferences, the ubiquitous UN conferences that we hear about? You're putting the information online, it's there, one can simply go to the web, access, and there you go, rather than having to take people halfway around the world to discover the same thing. So maybe that's efficiency.
Well, we hope that this is an example of how to work, and actually one of the main features of the UNPAN, and I want just to summarize them again, is the provision of data and information, the provision of advisory services online, the provision of training online, and one other service is exactly the capability to have meetings online. Actually, we had a meeting last year of auditor generals of African countries who did not meet physically. They met virtually through the UNPAN. And so we hope that this will be a way to facilitate ongoing exchange, because this way you can meet more often and with minimal cost, literally.
But at what level does this really kick in, to use the phrase? If you're the minister of whatever in a major country, the ministry in the capital city approaches you, or can local government approach you, or provincial government approach you? How would that work? Must it go through one channel, or?
No, it is very open. It is very open. Anyone can access information. Anyone can ask for advisory services. It is a very flexible tool. There's no bureaucracy involved.
And do they pay for the service?
Developing countries don't. They do not. They do not, and everything is provided by the UN. And actually, we were very glad to have associated within this network a number of institutions in developed countries, in the US, Canada, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, who have been willing to offer some of their data, some of their products, some of the training materials for free to be made available to the developing countries' officials.
Do you have a section in UNPAN for lessons learned? In other words, the bad examples, the good examples, and how not to make the mistake yet again somewhere else?
We have, so far, we have so-called good lessons learned, but I think it's a very good idea. We have been thinking of it, the bad lessons, because that's very important. It's very important because the bad lessons, the good lessons, are those which have remained, which have been successful. But the bad lessons are important to warn people not to go in a certain direction. So I take very good suggestion to go along that way.
Do governments come to you and ask for your advice, or do you volunteer it? I mean, what is the give and take?
Well, we are volunteering in the sense that we have this portal, which now it is visited 500,000 times a month. We have 500 times the visits on the portal now. So
is it in all the official languages?
It is mainly in English, but obviously, since we are connected with all the regional organizations, we have original documentation in French, Arabic, Chinese, Spanish, Russian, etc. So the countries which are relating to those languages can.
And you have 500,000 visits a month?
Correct.
Very good.
And we have a search engine. We have a search engine. So if you are interested on, for example, on VAT taxation, you type it, and then you will immediately receive a list of the websites, of the databases, of the documentation, the publication on that topic. And so this is our offering, but then obviously this generates demand. So for example, I mean, I can mention very, very, very openly the president himself of Peru.
What is the address of your site?
Is www.unpan.com.
And repeat the address.
www.unpan.com.
I hope people will pay attention. Thank you. Mr. Bertucci, that's all the time we have. Thank you for being with us on this edition of World Chronicle. Our guest has been Guido Bertucci, Director of the Division for Public Economics and Public Administration at the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs.